Are you ready for some smart, plain talk on politics, Israel, and the law? It's the Andrew Parker Show. Let's roll. Welcome to another episode of the Andrew Parker Show. Thank you once again for joining us. Each episode we talk politics, Israel, and the law. And we are going to, in some respects, speak about each of those topics on this episode, as I cannot ignore what is happening just down the street from where I am recording the show today. Here in what was once a great city, and that is the city of Minneapolis, the largest city in the state of Minnesota. And today it is far from that. In fact, for quite some time, since the ultra-liberal left, the progressives, have taken over this city, it has become ground zero for anarchy, ground zero for a lack of law and order, for a lack of safety and security, ground zero for discord, in fact. You know, we ask ourselves day to day, what kind of society do we want to have? Do we want to live in? And always on the list for most is a society where we feel safe, and secure, and that our government, as we demand of it, has as its number one priority our safety and security through police and fire, first responders, and those that are there right away to take care of us when things are not going as they should, when the law is not being obeyed, when it in fact is being purposely violated. And that is project number one, priority number one for government, to protect its people, according to the rule of law, which has been established, at least in some countries and certainly in ours, established by a democratic process in which we determine what the laws are that we together collectively consider important enough to be enacted by our elected representatives. And so it is those laws which government is to defend and enforce. Now, how did we get here where certain members of society, more so elected officials, in fact, certain people who, with the authority and control of government, say do not obey those laws, say you should fight against those democratically enacted laws, criminal laws. Do not allow the others, those that we disagree with, whether it be Donald Trump or someone else. But of course, if it's Donald Trump, anything goes in order to oppose what he does. At least here in the progressive state of Minnesota, anything goes. Yes, oppose it. Oppose it physically, not peacefully, although they always throw in at the end, of course, do it peacefully. No, these protests are not peaceful. Were they peaceful in the summer of 2020? $1 billion of damage from arson and looting? Clear violations of the law and of public safety. They, of course, were not peaceful. People died. They were killed, murdered, as a result of the protests across the country and indeed across the world, starting right here, ground zero, just down the street from where I am recording this episode. Ground zero here in Minneapolis, downtown Minneapolis. Who would have thought? When I was growing up here, no one would have thought that we would have reached the nadir, the bottom that we have reached here in Minneapolis as a result of anarchist, socialist, communist ideas and attitudes, as a result of ignoring and, in fact, rejecting and opposing physically the safety and security of the people, the following and enforcing of laws. No, calling out not to follow the law, calling out not to enforce the law has been our governor year in, year out for the last nearly 8 years. Has been our attorney general, the man with the highest ranking law enforcement position in the state of Minnesota, basically saying don't follow the law. In fact, oppose it. Push back on it. When federal ICE agents, ICE agents, these are law enforcement agents. These are, local police, local sheriffs, the highway patrol, first responders, the National Guard, the FBI, federal law enforcement in various areas, many different departments. All of them are law enforcement. They enforce the laws. That's their job. And you would think, particularly when the laws are so clear, these people over here that you see, we have checked their citizenship and they are not to be here. They are here illegally. They are here according to our laws in violation of those laws. And some of them have indeed violated crimes while they've been here, or they are criminals prior to coming here and bringing their criminal conduct here. And if we make a mistake and round up someone who is here legally and properly or is a citizen, we'll correct the mistake. Presidents have been doing that for decades. But in this case, it's far worse because of the open border invasion that occurred. And that there are so many people, millions of them, who are here illegally. And as a part of a plan, were allowed to come in illegally. A plan, frankly, by the Democratic Party nationally. They were called out for it and just ignored it. Ignored the invasion of people, saying, we don't care that they're coming in illegally because they need the United States of America to survive. And we are here with open arms. This is the argument of the liberal, the progressive, the Democratic Party. And they feel quite righteous and virtuous in making the argument. Well, there is some merit, some might say, to that argument. This country was built on immigrants. We need to have open arms and a very big door and allow them all in. Even if we don't vet any of them, even if it is illegal in the manner in which they are coming in, while many others, many millions of others came in legally or are still waiting in line to come in legally. They are being leapfrogged by these illegal migrants who have come in, invited, frankly, by the Biden administration. And they are here illegally under our laws. If you want to be a liberal progressive and change the law so that what your policy objectives are met, then do that. But you shouldn't say we are simply going to ignore that law. We are going to ignore enforcement of the law. And we are going to let these millions in without being vetted and coming in illegally and improperly. And by the way, if you are the mother or father of some, girl who is raped and murdered, we're very sorry about that. But, it could happen by a citizen here. It's not so much that they weren't a citizen that caused it to happen. Those things happen. That's the answer that's being given. It's not, it could have been avoided if you would have done your job in protecting people, safety and security, number one, making sure this invasion did not happen, shutting down the border, which it took one day for President Trump to do effectively. It could have been done, saving many lives. Period. Full stop. It wasn't. Now that it is not done, and we sit here with these millions here illegally, in violation of our laws, what do? Many people say, let them stay. They're here, let them stay. Well, that would achieve the Democratic objective for getting him here in the first place, certainly. And that is why Democrats today are fighting so hard, tooth and nail, against any attempts of deportation. The states and the cities in which Democrats control, in large part, are opposing any attempts of deportation. They have brought these people in, now cynically you would say because they are voters for the Democratic Party and they can change elections. Therefore, we don't want them to leave. We want them here and we want them to vote. That's a cynical attitude. It may well be true. It may be true. In fact, there are a lot on the right who say it's absolutely true. No question about it. I don't press those points because we'd have to get into a lot more proof and analysis, which I'm not ready to do yet. I haven't seen sufficient level of proof. But it could well be. Regardless, it doesn't matter. These blue cities, these liberal progressive cities that are fighting tooth and nail against the law, against deportation of illegals, which has gone on president upon president upon president for decades upon decades. Nothing new, nothing different. Oftentimes handled by federal agents, almost always. But in cooperation with local law enforcement. Why? Because law enforcement is there to enforce the law. Ooh, yes. Indeed. And the law is you're deported if you're here illegally. And the millions who came in doesn't change that law. If the law was to be changed, it should be changed according to our system for changing the law. Not because one party says we're going to pick which laws we want to abide by. And we're going to get all the people out there in these liberal progressive cities and states, and we're going to get them to push back. We're going to create an environment in which someone's going to get hurt and potentially killed. And they did that. And someone was killed. And most of the day today, out of my office window, I could hear sirens all day long. 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in between the first to the next, to the next, to the next. But it was for several hours. And that's what's going on in the city of Minneapolis. This environment that was created, someone was going to be killed. And for political purposes, I dare say, the Democrats of this state are now using that loudly and clearly, including the mayor of the city of Minneapolis, a friend of mine I've known for a long time. He's doing press conferences where he's swearing vulgarities. You know, why is he doing that? I ask. Well, why is he doing that? That's not him. Well, but yeah, it is. And he's doing it because it gets him votes. And it's disgraceful. Somebody has just died, and you're blaming it on the National Guard who is here doing the job that they are supposed to do, and you're not blaming it on the officers who are pushing back on the National Guard or the federal agents doing what they are supposed to be doing? Why? Local law enforcement should be working arm in arm to maintain the peace and to get the job done. And it simply is not surprising that they're creating an environment where cities are going to be ablaze again, just like they were in the summer of 2020. What happened there, you recall, Derek Chauvin, police officer, knee on the neck of George Floyd, who may well have committed the crime, but he was murdered on the street by this police officer. The officer was arrested. He was indicted. A trial was held. He was found guilty, and he's now in prison. That's what we do in the United States. That's how we deal with that sort of conduct. We don't do it by burning billions of dollars of property and by causing other death and by politicians for their own personal benefit crying out for people to protest and doing nothing about the violence, the violation of laws, which were a myriad and were stacked from here to the top of this building, one on top of the other, the violations, and having no response for it until there was $1 billion in damage and some died. And did we learn anything from it? Very little, if anything. As Tim Walz came out immediately, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, came out immediately and lit the flame, lit it further. Didn't quell the protests, but encouraged them. And when I say protests, I'm talking about riots. Encouraged them, encouraged opposition to law enforcement. That has become acceptable, by the way. Should it be? For politicians to encourage opposition to law enforcement, rioting and violence against law enforcement. Yeah, we have a First Amendment right, free speech, free association, but not when you're inciting violence. And to oppose and beat back at law enforcement is inciting violence. Instead, we should be working together to enforce our laws. And when politicians push back not to enforce, to ignore and not to enforce our laws, We're on a dark path, a difficult path. ICE in cities and states, as you know, across this country is getting no help from the blue states, the blue cities, the liberal, progressive, controlled cities in this country. They, in fact, are defying ICE. They are helping the criminals. Haven't we seen this before? As I said, particularly as the Democratic Party has left me, a longtime member, years ago, I've said a number of times, they're going to get us all killed. Why do I say that? Well, I say it, one, because they are not supportive of strong defense, strong military. Two, they call for defunding the police. Our Attorney General here supported defunding the police. The Attorney General, Keith Ellison, Congresswoman from Minneapolis, representing Minneapolis, supported and continues to support defunding the police. For a while, the majority of the city council believed that. And they support not our federal law enforcement, federal agents. They support allowing the law to be violated time and time again. The Democrats support sending billions of dollars to Iran so that people can be killed and murdered. That money was used on October 7th. Money is fungible, and that money was used to prop up Iran in order to support Hamas and Hezbollah and the Houthis, to fire rockets, to create discord, and to take human life, Jewish life. And now, a word from our sponsors. A record of success second to none. Parker Daniels Keyboard Law Firm, the numbers tell the story. The last 5 cases our lawyers have brought to trial have resulted in million and multi-million-dollar verdicts for our plaintiff clients and 0 defense verdicts for our defense clients. Put simply, we try cases and we win cases. Hi, I'm Andrew Parker. At Parker Daniels Keyboard, we take our work personally and we go the extra mile. That is why some of the biggest law firms, locally and nationally, send cases to us to handle when they can't. If you have a challenging and critically important business or personal legal dispute that must be favorably resolved, whether regarding a contract matter, a business divorce, a real estate dispute, an employment dispute, a civil rights or defamation matter, plain talk, if it's a big deal, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com. Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you. It's the Democrats that supported that Iran bill from 2015. It's just wrong. But they should own it. They shouldn't run away from it. They're still claiming, no, that was the right thing to do. Really. Got all these people protesting in Iran today against their government. This happened once before with Barack Obama and the Democrats. They turned their back. They turned their back on those protesters in the street trying to get rid of the heinous regime of the Islamic Republic of Iran, trying to get rid of them after having been under their thumb since 1979. This wonderful Islamic Republic is going to make all their lives better. It's been misery. And the entire Middle East has been destroyed because of it in large part. Time and time again. Discord, anarchy, death and destruction because of Iran. Well, they're now protesting. The people of Iran are protesting against this regime. And the Democrats wouldn't support it. They didn't support it with Obama. Why do we expect that they will now? Trump might get it right. We'll see. The Democrats oppose the Jews defending themselves. If it was up to them, there would have been no war in Gaza. Just suffer through October 7th. You know, so what that it's equivalent to 10 9/11s here in the United States per capita. 10 of them. Don't defend yourselves. Don't defend the lives of your people. When you've got these maniacs on your border engaging in such heinous acts of death and destruction that you can't even watch the video that exists because once you watch it, you can't unwatch it. No, you don't need to respond. Oh, and by the way, you've responded for a little while. It's enough. It's not showing up well on nightly news. This isn't about nightly news. The Jews are not going to go to their death quietly again. And thank God they have the ability to fight against the hatred that exists in the streets of this country in the United States. These same people who are out here, rent a mob, these same people that are out here, the group of voters, all of them with Ilhan Omar, who continues to get reelected under the Democrat banner, who supports Hamas, who supports Palestinian death squads, who supports what the Houthis believe in, who claims that the Jews engaged in genocide in Gaza, a complete unadulterated fabrication and lie without an ounce of honesty or truth to it, or that there was a famine going on in Gaza, never was, unless you rewrite the definition of the word, which, Democrats are used to doing that, have been doing it now for a while. Famine, a big lie. And continuing to talk about, Israel's an apartheid state. Not an ounce of truth to it. A more egalitarian and equality state for all citizens with the same rights. Arab Israelis on the Supreme Court in Israel, working side by side with Jews. Apartheid state, complete lie. Democratic Party pushes it. But what do they support? They support Hamas. They support these Palestinian maniacs who are killing Jews repeatedly, consistently. Even having been offered their own land by the Israelis, by Bibi Netanyahu, as well as other governments of Israel, repeatedly, 5, 6 different times, rejecting it. This isn't about that. It's about the destruction of the Jews. So that's the Democrats' view. That's where they line up. That's where they wrap their banner around Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, who believe these things. And they support the leader of Venezuela, who Trump just captured and brought back here to face our justice system. The brutal regime. They support it. Cuba, same thing. Brutal regime. And as I mentioned, the Iranians. Brutal. It's just every step of the way, every decision and action, they're on the wrong side. They're on the side that I would never support. Well, but it's all relative, Yeah, they're bad, but the way that Trump did it makes it, unpalatable. You got to leave him in there rather than do what he did. Oh, really? Yeah, we shouldn't have bombed Iran either, right? Bomb their nuclear facilities. No, we absolutely shouldn't do that. And when Keith Ellison was in Congress, he was definitely opposed to that. He was probably opposed to it when it was done just this past year as well. And he's just one example. The entire Democratic Party is opposed to it. They wanted to find reasons. Remember, they were saying, "Oh, it didn't work. It failed. Didn't matter what actually happened. It's a complete success. Didn't matter." They're still going to say it failed. Why? Because it was Donald Trump. Why? Because they want votes. They want to gin up their base. I don't like either party doing that. In the face of truth, they do that. It's wrong. Listen, the deterioration of the Democratic Party is not good for the United States at all. And I don't want to feel like they're going to get us all killed. But consistently taking the wrong side of every issue as it relates to safety and security, as it relates to our national security, it's just shocking how you can be on the wrong side each and every time. It's almost ridiculous that they feel bold enough to be able to support the leader of Venezuela, to support the Cuban regime, to support the Iranian regime to give them billions, to support Hamas, to effectively support ISIS by opposing our actions against them. By opposing removal of those who are here illegally that put our citizens at risk. Well, there are as many more crimes per capita by citizens than there are by illegals. How is that an argument? So what? Citizens have a right to be here, and we do the best we can in dealing with crime. Yeah, it's not as effective as it should be. It should be enforced much more. We should have more police officers on the streets, not less. But that doesn't mean we should have illegals here committing any crimes. Those crimes are avoidable, and they should be avoided. And people should go through the process. And if we need a new process, we should go through the democratic process to determine the new immigration process. Listen, when it comes to Minnesota, this is a place I was born, I grew up, I've lived in my entire life. It is in the worst condition it has ever been during all the years I've been here. There is no question about that. Anyone who wants to claim there was a worse period of time than, say, the last 5 years, 6 years have been, let me know, because I don't believe it. We had COVID, handled it terribly. That was Governor Walz. Locked everything down, closed everything up, lost a generation of education for our kids. People dying in nursing homes without their loved ones. No, it was handled poorly, to say the least. And there were many that were screaming in the forest to be heard and weren't. We had the George Floyd riots that I talked about. Horribly handled. The worst. As Ronald Reagan said, those who are old enough to know better allowed the young to protest and did not enforce the laws. Inciting violence. There was arson. There was looting. The third precinct was entirely destroyed. It was given up. This was all used in Technicolor. It was used as recruiting tools for more rent-a-mob and Democratic Party faithful. This triggered a world firestorm. You remember that? I mean, it went across this country, but across the world. Over what? Yes, it was a murder. And the murderer was sent to prison. People try to extrapolate that and say, oh, it's happening everywhere. And no, it wasn't happening everywhere. There are bad cops. There wasn't an epidemic of bad cops. There are bad cops, and there always have been. And they're brought to justice. And that's the way we deal with such issues. Whether you're black or Jewish. That's the way we deal with such issues. However, we try to stamp out the hate that exists before it ever gets to that point. And by the way, I don't believe there was a finding that this was a racially motivated murder. Although many, many people believe it and are convinced of it. I don't believe there has been such a finding. And then we had our governor run as the vice presidential candidate with Kamala Harris. And that was a joke. Another rock bottom for Minnesota. Became not only the violence capital, the defund the police capital, the COVID incompetency capital, the rent-a-mob capital, the oppose ICE capital. But we also became a laughing stock with this governor running out on stage, waving his hands around, and we looked like a bunch of yahoos. And now Minnesota will never, I mean, it's been 5 or 6 years, story upon story upon story. It's a disaster. And that's not what this state is about. Although one of the parties in this state that has repeatedly won elections, not by a lot, but by a little, repeatedly. Remember, the House of Representatives here in Minnesota is evenly split. 132 seats? 134 seats? And the Senate is 1 seat difference between the Republicans. So it's very evenly divided. Now, having said that, no statewide election has been won by a Republican since 2006. So many view this as just a staunchly blue state, and certainly in Minneapolis, St. Paul, it has been run by and run over by Democrats for decades, many, many decades. But we are now not just a total disaster, but a laughingstock disaster. We could not be further from what Minnesota stood for just a few decades ago, when it could best be described as perhaps the number one good government states in the entire union. Stood for good government, sound policy, whether it be Democrat or Republican. We rolled up our sleeves, battled it out, and ended up generally with a great place to live. It's been destroyed by the liberal left. Thank you for joining me on the Andrew Parker Show. We hope for peace and calm. I dare say I doubt we will get it. I believe that we should follow the rule of law. I have consistently believed that. And if it were the Republicans standing in the way of that, I would oppose them every step of the way. In this situation, it happens to be the Democrats who have created an environment that has resulted in not just bodily harm, but a death. And we need to step away from the podium, step away from ginning up the base and making decisions based upon how it will affect your vote count, and start to care about the safety and security of the people that you supposedly have been elected to serve. Go to theandrewparkershow.com, theandrewparkershow.com. Take a look at the website, subscribe, follow us, like. Find us on all the different platforms. Send us a message. Leave us with your email so you can get the episodes immediately when they drop. We're on 450-something already. And send us a text message as well if you agree or if you disagree. 952-522-2818. 952-522-2818. Thank you to our sponsors, Parker Daniels Keyboard, premier law firm downtown Minneapolis, #1 litigation firm, trial lawyers. Wise Counsel Winning Results, and True North Investments, outstanding investment firm with great creative ideas in making your money work for you. Hoping everything is well as we move into this new year, and praying for peace and calm. Until next time, be kind to your neighbor. For more Smart Plain Talk, go to theandrewparkershow.com. Learn about all of your listening and viewing options. And remember, all the great things are simple, and many can be expressed in a single word: freedom, justice, honor, duty, mercy, hope. This episode of The Andrew Parker Show is sponsored by Parker Daniels Keyboard and True North Private Investments.
Did your employer make you sign a promissory note when joining the company, and now you want to leave, but you're afraid your firm will pursue you personally for that debt? This is Jesse Keyboard from the law firm Parker Daniels Keyboard. I recently represented a client who had signed such a note, and I was able to get them out of their $500,000 debt to their company, which allowed them the freedom to exit a bad employment situation and enter a much better one. Meeting our clients' objectives is our focus at Parker Daniels Keyboard, and in this regard, we win. Our experienced trial team of lawyers at Parker Daniels Keyboard have secured major victories in state and federal courts across the country and through arbitration. We have the legal expertise in all types of business disputes, labor and employment matters, real estate matters, shareholder disputes, financial transactions, security issues, and appeals. For wise counsel winning results, contact us at Parker Daniels Keyboard, a premier litigation law firm that provides efficient, aggressive, and innovative solutions to complex legal problems. Wise counsel, winning results. Go to parkerdk.com.
Looking to reduce your tax liability and grow your portfolio? Consider Texas-based Texacoma Resources. They have been delivering results for over 40 years in energy investments. Investors may benefit with strategic advantages like depreciation, depletion, and drilling, but should consult their tax advisors for their specific situation. Call True North Investment at 612-968-3442 to learn more. That's True North Investment, 612-968-3442. Texacoma Energy that works for you.